Hey there, and welcome to this deep dive. Today we're diving into a book that's practically a rite of passage, Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist.
It's a classic for a reason.
It really is. It's been captivating readers for decades, but I'm curious,
Yeah.
what do you think it is about this story that resonates with so many people, even after all this time?
Well, I think it's because The Alchemist isn't just a story. It's more like, a roadmap, I guess you could say,
Yeah?
to discovering your own personal legend, that purpose that's like hidden inside each of us,
It's that idea that we all have a purpose, right? Like a reason we're here.
Exactly.
And I love how Coelho presents it. It's almost like a treasure hunt for our own potential.
I like that.
And speaking of treasure hunts, we're introduced to Santiago, our shepherd from Andalusia, who dreams of finding treasure, near the pyramids of Egypt, no less.
Mhm.
But it's obvious that he's searching for something more than just, golden jewels, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. It's that universal yearning for something more,
Yeah.
that feeling of, okay, there's got to be more to life than this, more than just the everyday, the routine.
Yeah.
And Santiago, he really embodies that feeling.
Yeah.
He actually listens to that voice, that pull towards something bigger.
It's like he actually listens to that inner voice that many of us try to ignore, right?
Right.
And he's lucky enough to get a little nudge in the right direction
He does.
from the mysterious Melchizedek, the king of Salem, who I have to say is one of my favorite characters.
Oh, such a good character.
He just appears out of nowhere and just drops this wisdom bomb on Santiago about the personal legend. And I mean, come on, this line always gets me. He says, when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you achieve it.
I get chills every time.
Every time. It's just, it's so powerful.
It is.
It makes you think, wow, what if it's really true? What if the entire universe has my back as long as I'm following my path? So inspiring.
It is incredibly inspiring. But there is a catch, isn't there?
There's always a catch, right?
Always. Because right alongside this beautiful idea of the personal legend, Coelho introduces us to what he calls the world's greatest lie.
Ooh, ominous.
Right. And that lie is that at some point, we lose control over our own destinies. That we become, prisoners of fate, essentially.
That it's a little too close to home.
I think that's why it resonates so much with people. We've all encountered it in some form, whether it's, societal expectations or fear of the unknown, or maybe just the stories we tell ourselves about what's possible.
It's that voice in your head, right? Whispering, this is as good as it gets, or what is it? Who are you to dream so big?
Exactly.
Ugh, I hate that voice.
It's the worst.
It can really make you feel stuck, like you're settling, even when you know deep down you could be doing more. But Melchizedek, thankfully, he tells Santiago, and us by extension, that we have the power to reject that lie. We have the power to shape our own lives. The question is, how do we actually do that?
Right, it sounds great, but how do we navigate those choices, those forks in the road on the path to our personal legend?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned forks in the road, or crossroads, because Melchizedek gives Santiago two stones, Urim and Thummim, one black, one white, and they're supposed to help him with making decisions. Now, on the surface, you might think, okay, magic stones, sure.
Right, like a magic 8-ball.
Yeah, but I think they represent something much, much deeper.
Like what?
Like that constant pull between logic and intuition, the head and the heart.
That makes sense.
And they're black and white, yes and no. It's like a physical reminder of the choices we make and how we make them.
And that trusting your gut, those gut feelings and hunches, that's not always easy.
No, definitely not. It takes a lot of courage to actually listen to your intuition and then do something about it. And Santiago, bless him, he jumps in head first. He sets off for those pyramids with so much, excitement.
Oh, totally.
It just jumps off the page at you. It's I don't know, I can practically feel that youthful optimism. When you're young and you just, believe that anything is possible.
Oh, yeah. It's contagious for sure.
It is. But like any good adventure story, there have to be some setbacks along the way.
Right. Gotta have some drama.
In Santiago, he definitely hits a few bumps in the road. I mean, getting robbed, right out of the gate in Tangier.
Yeah.
Definitely not ideal.
Not what you want when you're just starting out.
Not at all. But I think this is where Coelho really highlights the importance of resilience, Because Santiago could have easily just given up and gone back home.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I've been tempted to throw in the towel on a dream or two after facing some setbacks.
Right. Okay, I guess it's not meant to be.
Exactly.
But Santiago doesn't do that. He just keeps going.
And I think that's such an important lesson for all of us.
It totally is. Because it's in those moments of doubt and uncertainty, those tests, that's what really shows our character.
Right. It's like that idea of beginner's luck that Melchizedek talked about. It's that initial, you know, burst of enthusiasm that gets you moving. But it's the resilience, that ability to pick yourself up after you stumble, that makes all the difference.
Totally. It's about not letting those setbacks define you, but using them to learn and grow. And Santiago, I'll give him credit, he stumbles upon a pretty unique opportunity during this little detour. He ends up working for this crystal merchant.
Oh, yes, the crystal merchant.
Who is, I think, such a fascinating character study in the fear of change, because here's this guy who dreams of going to Mecca.
Right, like it's his big dream.
Huge. But he can't bring himself to actually leave his shop and make it happen.
It's like he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. Or a crystal shop in Mecca, I guess.
Exactly. And have you ever felt that? That pull between wanting something more but being terrified of the unknown?
Oh, all the time. It's such a universal human experience, isn't it?
It really is. And I think that's why the Crystal Merchant resonates so strongly with readers. He represents that part of ourselves that craves security, even at the expense of our dreams.
Totally. And what I love about Santiago's influence is that he gently nudges the crystal merchant, and in turn, us as readers, to consider that growth, real growth, usually requires us to step outside of that comfort zone.
It's like that saying, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. And for Santiago, that step outside of his comfort zone leads to a pretty incredible discovery. I mean, who knew that working in a crystal shop would lead to a deeper understanding of, like, the world? Because it's in that bustling marketplace, surrounded by all these different people and cultures, that he stumbles upon what Coelho calls the language without words, which is this, like, universal language of the heart.
Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it?
It really is. It's like this unspoken connection that goes beyond words and transcends cultural differences. Have you ever experienced that? Like, you just get someone, even if you don't speak the same language.
Totally. I think we all have at some point. It's like this unspoken understanding.
Exactly. It's like Coelho is suggesting that beneath all of our differences, there's this shared human experience that connects us all. And it's a powerful message, especially in today's world, don't you think?
100%. We need more of that, for sure.
We really do. But anyway, this discovery paves the way for Santiago's journey into the Sahara Desert, which I have to say is a whole other level of adventure.
Well, absolutely. The desert is a whole character in itself.
It really is. And it's this vast, unforgiving landscape that really tests Santiago's limits, physically and emotionally.
For sure. But it's also a place of incredible beauty, wouldn't you say, and unexpected lessons.
Definitely. And in the heart of it all, amid the silence and solitude, Santiago finally meets the alchemist.
The man himself.
The one and only. And it's almost like the story shifts gears here, wouldn't you say?
How so?
Well, we go from this, like, very external journey of crossing deserts and overcoming physical obstacles to a more, I don't know, internal exploration. It becomes more about Santiago's personal growth and transformation.
Totally. It's like the external journey mirrors the internal one. Yes.
Exactly. And the alchemist becomes this, like, spiritual guide who helps Santiago really unlock his full potential and tap into the wisdom within himself.
And this is where Coelho introduces this idea of the soul of the world, right?
Yeah, which can be a little out there.
It's definitely a bit woo-woo, but I kind of love it.
Me too. So, for those who haven't read the book, how would you explain the soul of the world?
Well, it's kind of like this idea that everything is interconnected, you know, that we are all part of this much bigger universal energy or life force. And that by tapping into that energy, we could achieve incredible things and, like, truly live out our purpose.
It's like those moments when you feel this sense of oneness with everything around you, whether it's in nature or through a connection with another person.
Right, like you're a part of something much bigger than yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, it's those moments where you feel, I don't know, truly connected. And the alchemist, he teaches Santiago how to, I guess, tap into that universal energy. But it's not like you can just, you know, wish for it to happen.
Right, definitely not. The Alchemist is all about taking action, like actually doing something to make your dreams a reality.
He's got that no-nonsense approach.
Right. It's not enough to just think about your personal legend. You have to actively pursue it.
And that often means, like, facing those fears that have been holding you back.
Exactly. And for Santiago, one of those fears shows up in the form of love.
Fatima. She throws a wrench in the works, doesn't she?
She does.
Suddenly he's dealing with this whole other level of complexity.
It's like that classic dilemma, isn't it? Love or personal ambition?
It's the ultimate question. And I love that Coelho doesn't shy away from it. He tackles it head on. But I also appreciate that he doesn't present it as an either-or situation, you know? Like,
Yep.
you have to choose one or the other.
Right, it's not a zero-sum game.
Exactly. And I think that's a really refreshing perspective, because so often we're told that we have to make these huge sacrifices for love or for our dreams.
When in reality, it doesn't always have to be that way.
Right. And in The Alchemist, Fidelba actually encourages Santiago to pursue his personal legend. She knows that his journey is important. And that's real love, isn't it? Supporting someone's dreams, even if it means, letting them go.
It's about trusting that whatever is meant to be will be, regardless of the distance of the challenges.
I like that, trusting the journey. But of course, the journey isn't over yet. In Santiago, he eventually reaches the pyramids, the destination he's been working towards this whole time.
And does he find what he's looking for?
Well, that's the thing. The treasure isn't where he expects it to be. It's this whole, heart-stopping moment where everything he thought he knew is flipped upside down.
Oh, no. That's got to be disheartening.
Totally. I mean, can you imagine the disappointment, the frustration? I'd probably just give up and go home at that point.
Well, there's the point.
Exactly. But Coelho, he's got this knack for weaving in these life lessons when you least expect it. And I think the lesson here is that sometimes those greatest treasures, those things we're searching for, they're not found at the end of the journey, but within the journey itself.
That's a good point. It's not always about the destination.
Right. It's about who we become along the way, the lessons we learn, the challenges we overcome, the connections we make. Remember that line from The Alchemist? The soul of the world is nourished by people's happiness.
I love that line.
It's so simple, but so profound. Our happiness, our growth, it has this ripple effect. It impacts everything and everyone around us.
And for Santiago, that journey, it takes him across continents through these incredible highs and lows. But he faces his fears. He learns to trust his intuition. He discovers the true meaning of love.
He does. He goes through a complete transformation. And it's in that moment of surrender, of letting go of his expectations, that he finally uncovers his treasure.
And where is it?
Well, this is the best part. It's not in some far-off land. It's back where it all began, at that ruined church where he first dreamt of finding treasure.
Oh.
Right. It's like Coelho is saying that sometimes those most valuable lessons, they're not hidden in some secret scroll. They're right there in front of us. In those places we've overlooked or taken for granted.
So he goes on this epic adventure only to discover that what he was searching for was within him all along.
Exactly. And he had to go on that journey to realize it. It reminds me of that saying, you can't go home again. But in Santiago's case, he can go home again. But it's not about the physical place. It's about the fact that he's changed.
He's not the same shepherd who left.
Exactly. And that changes everything. So as we wrap up our deep dive into The Alchemist, I think the biggest takeaway for me, and maybe this is something our listeners can connect with too, is that we all have a personal legend, this unique purpose that's just waiting to be discovered.
And that it's never too late to start listening to that inner voice that's guiding us towards it.
Absolutely. And that the journey itself, with all its twists and turns, it's just as important as the destination. So to everyone listening, as you go about your day, ask yourself this: what is my personal legend? It might not be finding a treasure chest buried under a sycamore tree, but it's your journey to take, and it's just as magical. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring.